Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's edition, of Beyond the Ordinary Show. And today, y'all, we have Jami Derro. Am I pronouncing that correctly?
Oh, I
Derro.
like how you said it with a little bit of an
Derro is
accent.
my
Really, it's just
Spanish
Darrow.
coming out. Jami Derro, who's a multi-dimensional psychic channel, Ascension alchemy guide, and teacher. And I had the amazing gift of having a session with Jami a few months ago, and I was just so impressed and experience beautiful shifts in the energy that was held and what was being expanded in my system of awareness and embodiment. And I feel that many of us are going through that sense of that expansion being stretched, but it's stretched in a good way, even though it might feel uncomfortable. But we know that it's like we're accessing more of us in different ways. And Jami's going to guide us through why that might be happening and so many other things. And as we talk about what to expect when you're ascending, and she's going to take us through 7 stages of initiation on the ascension path, learning about the soul's multidimensional blueprint and the information it holds for your unique alignment, and how we open a heart chakra gateway to access higher dimensional realms, guides, and healing modalities, and so much more. So again, Jami connects with soul consciousness, ascended masters, light beings, cosmic guides, and the Akashic field to bring through guidance practices and multidimensional healing modalities so that you can be assisted on your spiritual evolution and ascension. And with that, Jami, welcome to the call.
Thank you so much. I'm very excited to be here and talking about my favorite subject in the world, how we transform our lives and really become our full potential that we came here to be. And I love this subject so much. So thanks so
Mm,
much for having me.
or you're living it. So it's wonderful. It's great to have you here. I want to get into what to expect when we're sending and get deeper into that conversation. But I really love it if you give us a little more background as to your multidimensional psychic channel and you as a guide for Ascension and how the clients that work with you in the community that follows you is benefiting from what you're bringing through.
Yeah, so I really tune in for people into the level of their soul, and I'm looking at their soul blueprint and gathering a whole lot of information about that through my psychic channel.
Mhm.
And then I can share with them more about why they're here at this particular time, what they came here to do. And not only that, but what might be getting in their way of doing it, because we all have those things. And this is where alchemy comes in, right? We can identify what we're here to do and we know what we want to do or what we're pulled towards. But then if we have those things that get in the way, we're never really moving forward. And that's when people feel stuck. And so I try to help them get unstuck. So I really look into the soul blueprint and find all this information out about them. And then I try to help people walk through the process of spiritual alchemy, which was really the same process we go through when we are going through the ascension process. So they're really the same thing. There's 7 stages of alchemy, 7 stages of spiritual ascension. And so, through classes and teaching and interacting with people in one-to-one sessions, that's what I'm doing. I'm helping to guide them. And we'll talk a little bit later about this special offer, which is my Ascend Alchemy course. And I really, as I was doing so many sessions with people over the years, I really was seeing that people need ongoing support on their journey because, as you know, and I've heard your audience talk about before, you know, sometimes we get a little lost in all the terminology and all the modalities out there and all the things that we feel we need to work on or heal or transmute. And there's so much information now, which is a good thing. We're not alone in our journey. We have lots of other people going through it with us, and that's a good thing, but also can be overwhelming. And so, as I was talking to people and working with people, I was noticing this real need for a simplified, step by step type process that they could understand and that could really guide them along. And so that's why I started teaching alchemy to begin with, because this was something that had changed my life so much. And I was, psychic as a child. So I always had this ability going on. But as a child, I was not having awesome experiences around this. I was very open, but I also was living in a house with a lot of spirit energy and activity going on. And I also had stuff going on in my childhood that was kind of, causing me some issues as well. And so um, my childhood was, there was a lot of turmoil happening for me. And I had a lot of sort of shadow people I was seeing and things going on spiritually for me. And I didn't have anyone to talk to about it. I didn't understand what was happening. And so I ended up being in fear a lot of my childhood growing up. And so then my real alchemy journey began in 1998. And I had finished graduate school. I was 28. And that dark night of the soul kind of from childhood had continued on over the years until that point. And I really was struggling in life, mentally, emotionally. And I got to this place of finally wanting to surrender and just letting go of my need to try to control or have things go the way I wanted it to go and always falling short of that, that kind of a thing. So that one night in that moment where I was able to open the door a little bit and surrender, I had this really powerful awakening happen. And I didn't realize what it was. I knew the next day I woke up feeling completely differently. I felt like a different person. And I started making life changes from that moment on. And I started to seek out all the spiritual information I could get. And at the same time, these abilities that I had were starting to make more sense to me. And I was starting to focus on first getting my life in order and finding happiness. And that's kind of what gets a lot of people to that first stage of alchemy that we're going to talk about on the ascension path, because they have something that leads them to a moment where they say, there's got to be more to life than this, right? I'm tired of struggling. Some people might have, an illness. Some people might have a divorce, something, a life event that kicks this in for them. And other people, it might just be finally they have gotten to a moment where they could surrender, and then they hear the inner voice say, okay, now I've got you. I'm going to show you what's next for you. And that's really what happened for me. It was this abrupt awakening experience that led me on this journey. And I started remembering things. I started, making all these connections that up until that point I hadn't made before about why my life was the way it was and how I was reacting to life. And I started to learn at that time about the law of attraction. And I really wanted to get my life to a happy, stable place, that I was enjoying it versus feeling like I was suffering through it. And so that's when everything, started to change for me. And then I got to a point where I said, okay, now I have to focus on my intuitive abilities. And I have to learn more about these, understand and practice these so that I can really get the guidance that I know is available to me. And so that's when I started to focus on that. I started accessing the Akashic records. I started to um, and as I'm moving through these stages of spiritual alchemy, everything's getting heightened for me. And I'm having these really incredible experiences along the way. And that's when I was connecting to more of my cosmic guides. I came to the knowledge that I was a star seed, and all of this information started to come back. And now I'm at the point where I've been doing this for a long time now. I quit my day job a long time ago, and I've been doing this work with people. And I've worked with so many people now that each time I'm connecting in on a soul level to them, I'm accessing more and more information that leads me to the next thing. And it's so great. But now I'm connecting with ascended masters and working in six-dimensional planes of consciousness and higher to bring in healing modalities and information and guidance for people. So that's really who I'm accessing and how I am accessing that information.
Amazing. What a great story. And again, getting to that place that there's got to be something more. That was definitely
Yeah.
my calling. And that was the gateway for me. And then what showed up was absolutely just life-changing, to be honest. And here we are, right? From that initial question, how it progresses, it's amazing.
And
Um,
when something is so life-changing for you that you feel you have to share it. You have to
100%.
share it. Yeah.
Mhm. So how did you get to the 7 stages of initiation on the Ascension path?
Okay, so that information was coming to me. So back when I started moving through these stages, I didn't know I was moving through stages. I didn't know that about alchemy, or I didn't know when I first, was coming to the understanding that I was a starseed. I had never heard of that before. I
Mm,
didn't know, and it came to me. I had a past life regression, and I kept hearing the word Sirius. And that is what started to open me up to this idea that my soul was, connected to the cosmos, that I was, connected to Sirius. And so then, as I started to, when I got into the fourth stage that I'll talk about tonight, is really when I opened that heart gateway, that higher heart chakra gateway. And that's when we're really starting to access now more of our multi-dimensional nature is when we do that in that fourth stage. And when that happened, I connected with a guide named Elijah, who was connected to me on a soul level. And he was the one that started showing me and bringing into my awareness this information about these 7 stages and this alchemy process and ascension and all that. So that's where that was coming from. And then it was just sort of like, you remember, your soul knows. And you start to remember this. And I am someone, and I know others that are Syrian star seeds. This is kind of one of our traits is we like things to have like a system, a formula. We like it to be organized. We like it to be practical. Whereas maybe Palladians, they're more into the feeling, the maybe going and doing the ceremonies and earth-based things and drum circles and all
mm.
of that. And my mind is always going, how can I teach this in a way that is really practical for people? How can I, here's the steps that worked for me, and here's what I'm being told will work for everyone. And here's, the experiences I've had in working with other people, and I can see this is really a pattern here. This is how this works. And so we will all go through these stages. Those of us that are starseeds and light workers that are here now, really incarnated now to go through this ascension process. And for those that didn't want to go through it in this life, they will eventually go through it in some lifetime experience. We're all evolving in this way. But for the star seeds and light workers, this is the time to understand this information and to really work within whatever stage you're in. And that's another thing too, when I talk about these stages, I don't want this to come across as levels, you're at this level or you're at this level. It's really, here's what this stage is about, and here's what will benefit you to work on or focus on during this stage, and here's what that will bring you. Here's how that's helping you, and then here's what's next. So I think, did I answer your question?
You did. You absolutely did. And I love the way that you brought it in. So what can we expect when
Okay,
sending?
I'll start talking about the stages then.
Absolutely.
I'm going to get right in. Okay, so the first stage we kind of already talked about, which, I call it the meltdown or the
Mhm.
breakdown. But it's really the letting go of living in a way where we are just reacting to life. The ego mind is running the show, our pain body is running the show. We are really spending a lot of our time either avoiding pain or trying to get something that we want, right? And we're always in this sort of reactionary mode, and we're not really maybe that focused on what's beyond the physical world. We're really engaging in kind of first chakra stuff up until that point, and how we're engaging with the physical world and how we're seeing reality around us, and labeling things good and bad and, that kind of thing. And then we get to that point where something happens, like we said before, that you uh, can't any longer continue that way because you're feeling such a lack of purpose. A lot of people will feel like, gosh, I'm doing this job, but it's not my purpose, or I'm living up to someone else's expectations and what they expect of me. And that's not right for me either. So now what? So everything kind of burns to the ashes a little bit for us, and that what we've been doing isn't working, and so we are kind of getting to a place of starting fresh, a new beginning. That's the first stage. And most of the people that are watching your show, or most people that I engage with in my work, are typically in the third, fourth, or fifth stage of
Mm.
alchemy. So most of you have already been through this. You already know what I'm talking about. But I like to go through all the stages because a lot of people that I work with are serving other people. They have clients that they're trying to help work through their alchemy. And so I think it's good to understand the whole process.
Well, something, and I want to bring awareness to this also because it's also good to go back and kind of do a review of where we've been to where we are now, because so many times we're so trying to move forward that I haven't gotten there yet, or I'm supposed to be further, or when's that going to show up, and that not enoughness at time peaks in. And so to actually take inventory from where we've navigated through and to even acknowledge the stage that we're in now, if you will, can add so much momentum and positivity into what's becoming possible, that we get to accelerate the timeline and not necessarily have to go through as much healing of denser thoughts or environmental conditioning, because again, we're following the wave of ascension instead of interrupting it with again, conditioned perceptions of what it's supposed to look like.
Right, right. And, it's so interesting too, because one thing that I wanted to point out was when we're talking about this for ascension purposes, going through these seven stages, we're talking about our spiritual alchemy. But anytime we want to shift anything in our life, whether it's our finances or our relationships or our physical health or anything, we pull those thought patterns that we have through the seven stages as well. So you alchemize yourself spiritually, but also you're going to alchemize your finances. You're going to alchemize your whole belief system in all the life areas. And so, as we're talking about these seven stages, keep that in mind too. What have I been thinking about my finances my whole life that has been limiting me, that I'm now ready to be open to a new way of thinking? And then you're going to pull your belief system around finances through these seven stages as well. So we do it on sort of the macro level and the micro level all the time. We're alchemizing everything that we're experiencing that isn't our ideal or isn't in alignment with our desire. If we're experiencing anything else, we have to alchemize it in this fashion too. So we get through the awakening experience, whatever that is for you, and then we go to this sort of stage of the second stage, which is a rebuilding or direction. Okay, so I had this plan for my life. It didn't go as planned. I haven't been happy. So now what? What do I want to build? What do I want to create? What do I want my life to look like? And we start to think in those terms. And it's the same with when we're alchemizing things like our finances. We have the first realization and identification that I'm not experiencing the level of financial abundance that I want. Okay, I'm experiencing lack. So now I'm going to move into stage two and say, okay, what do I want? And what can I create? And what could be possible? Right. So, but in a spiritual sense, this is where we start to look at it's the beginning of when we start to look at some of our coping mechanisms, and we start to look at how we've been reacting to life based on our traumas, our experiences, what we've been taught by our preachers, our teachers, our parents, all of that, our bullies. A lot of times it's the bullies that teach us
Right.
our beliefs about ourselves. But anyway, so the second stage too, people can spend as much time in these stages. Um, it's really dependent on how willing they are to start to look within. So there's no set time period for everybody. Um, it just depends on, how open you are and how eager you are to uh, evolve through these. But I don't see people spending a lot of time in that second stage. Typically, they'll then move right into the third stage. And so, in my alchemy course, I spent a lot of time talking about the third, fourth, and fifth stages because these are really where most of us are right now on our journey. And so the third stage is, I call it the release. This is a big stage of transformation and transition for us. So this is where after you wake up, you start going and reading all the spiritual books, taking classes, getting readings, learning how to do Reiki, all of these things. You're learning about the law of attraction. You have this eagerness to understand in the third stage. So I think many people could relate to going through that phase or being in that phase now. And it's such a pivotal stage because it's when we really start to have those aha moments big time and we start to notice our patterns in life. And the patterns are so important because that teaches you what's going on inside of you that's being reflected in the outer world, right? So people start to have epiphany after epiphany about their lives and how they see the world. And where they've given their power away, that's a big one during this stage because we're working here with the third chakra in the third stage. And we're working with any disempowerment energy that's held in that third chakra. And the big shift that needs to happen in this stage is going from disempowerment to empowerment, from feeling victimized by life or circumstances to being the deliberate creator of your circumstances. That's a major shift that happens in this third stage. So you start to look at your programming, you start to look at your limiting belief patterns, and like I said, typically people will start with the beliefs that are affecting them the most in their life right now. If they're really struggling financially, they're going to start looking there. What is it? If they're struggling emotionally, they're going to start there. Why do I feel this sense of unworthiness? Why do I feel like I can't love myself? And that will start to come up. And then they'll start to see those patterns. Okay, I could see how this started in my childhood. Oh, I could see how then that led to this experience and that experience. And, aha moment after aha moment. And so there is some healing from that identification process that comes in. Um, but there's more in later stages too for that. But this is really a stage of identifying what your beliefs are, what's getting in your way, but also who am I authentically? That's the big question in the third stage is um, I only know myself through the ego mind, really, in this stage. That's been how I'm presenting myself to the world and reacting to the world.
Mhm.
And it might have been fear-based. It's usually coming from a place of disempowerment in different areas. So, okay, if I let that go, who am I? Who am I authentically? What is true for me? And do I have to keep believing the stories I've been telling myself because of what I was taught? And then on a bigger scale, this is when people will start to say, do I need to believe this because my church said this? Do I need to believe this because, um, other, it looks like reality, the economic situation, that's reality. So of course I'm at its mercy or, those kinds of things. And we start to question those, especially as we start to learn about the law of attraction and, oh, my mind does have power. My emotions do have power. I can create something different for myself. So we really challenge those things and we start to shift who we are in that third stage. And it can be a challenging stage for people because what they'll start to notice is that the people they were connected to prior to that, they're starting to feel movement away in resonance from some of those people. So for most of your audience, they probably have already gone through this, so they could relate to this, and maybe you can too, is that the types of conversations maybe you had earlier in your life when you became friends with people or connected with people, once you have your awakening and you start to go through these processes and you get to this point where you're rediscovering who you really are, you can't have the same conversations anymore. Those surface conversations do nothing for you, or sitting and gossiping about people or whatever you were engaging with that kind of aligned you with the people you were friends with back then aren't there for you anymore. Now you're moving in this new direction. And if you're lucky, some of your friends will be moving with you in that direction, but otherwise you're going to start to feel like, oh, I need to find some new people that also are really interested in this evolution and ascension and all this kind of stuff. And so it can be kind of lonely for people and they go through this, process of detaching from what isn't serving them anymore. And that includes people sometimes. And then also, this is a big stage of transition where a lot of people will change jobs or they'll move or they might end a relationship. Um, and so I like to tell people about this when I work with someone who's in that third stage, we'll talk a lot about this because I want them to have the context around this to know here's why that's happening. Here's why you're getting dissatisfied with what you had before. You're moving into a whole new place. And so don't be beating up on yourself if you see some of your relationships fall away. You're just no longer in alignment because of where you're moving and kind of go with the flow of it. I also tell people it's not the best time to get into a committed new relationship during stage three because who you're going to be maybe a year from now is going to be so different than who you were at the beginning of stage three. So you're changing and growing so much, and you're healing yourself. And so, maybe you were insecure and had a lot of unworthiness programming going on in your soul blueprint. And now you're working on healing that because you're having all this understanding and this learning come in. Well, who you would have matched up with back in when you were really running on insecurity and disempowerment is not going to be who you're going to match up with in a partnership once you've healed all that. You're going to be a much different person. So it's a very transitional stage, but it's also very pivotal, and people tend to really get going and accelerate during that third stage of alchemy. But again, I have seen people stay in this stage for a very long time if they're unwilling to take action on what they've identified.
Mhm.
So if they've identified these old patterns and then they still continue to engage in them, they'll kind of stay there. If they've identified them and they're willing to embrace the new way of thinking and new patterns, then they'll move forward.
Makes sense. And again, in this stage also, there's a big neurochemical realignment that's happening also. We're rewiring limiting beliefs. There's new neural pathways being formed with new potentials if we're willing to do the work. And that creates the energetic container in which we're broadcasting what we're attracting in our world. And it also augments our action taking ability because we can see in ways that we couldn't see before. So the alchemy that's taking place through this awareness and what it does to us physically, energetically, and our capacity to create from that consciousness, it's tremendous. But again, we evolve through
Yeah.
these stages.
And this is a reason why for the alchemy course that I'm offering, I created limiting belief worksheets because what I was finding out was that a lot of people don't know that a certain belief is limiting. There's a
Mhm.
lot of beliefs that they were like, oh, I never would have, I just thought that was a fact.
Yeah.
I thought that was fact. I didn't realize that that was a belief that doesn't have to be true, and
For
so,
example, you can say no. What I can say no, that's a thing. I have
yeah,
permission to do that. You would think it'd be so basic, but it's surprising how many people aren't aware that that's an option until you present them like, wait, hold on a second. Wow, my whole life's just changed being aware of that.
right, right.
It's
Or even things like, people get a real set belief around how money can come into their lives. So I have to work, I have to save, I have to work this long, and then I can retire. And this is kind of beat into us. I know my parents' generation, and I'm in my 50s, here's what you do. You graduate high school, you go to college, you get a job with a company, you get your insurance, your benefits, you work for 30 years, and then you retire. And so it's been kind of ingrained in us that that's reality. That's what we have to do. And when you move through these stages of alchemy, you start to unlock possibilities that you had never even thought of before, that, oh, I never heard of that before. I didn't realize that that was something I could do. I thought this was the path for me. And, I like to talk about the soul blueprint, because it's so immersed with all this talk about ascension and alchemy. Like, you can't really separate the soul blueprint out from that, because the soul blueprint is our multi-dimensional framework for this lifetime. And within that framework are destiny points for us. And so, like, for me, my awakening was a destiny point. That was something that was going to happen. And it was going to lead me to where I am now, and then whatever's next, right? We all have destiny points within our blueprint, and we have free will as well. So I say the blueprint is really the structure for our lives. It's like living, incarnating into a big building with lots of rooms and lots of floors. And while we're in this building, what we experience within it is really part of our free will. So,
So I want to ask you this. So as we're going through these stages, and I know a lot of y'all recognize it, and some of y'all may even feel like, well, I'm not even past two. I haven't even gone past go right now. And we'll get into some of your questions in a little bit. And as we go through the rest of the stages also, I love that you're outlining this, but I also would love to know how it is that you help people through each stage, because it's so important. Because it's one thing to have kind of like the map of what it is, but if we can't see past our own hand, how do we move beyond it?
yeah. And so, well, the alchemy course, which is the special offer for tonight, really goes through every single stage and practices that you can do and where to focus, and
Mm,
all of that. So there's a lot of detail in there. So that's really to help people. But then when I'm working with them one-on-one, I can say to them, here's what's coming through, either from your guides or just higher consciousness or Akashic, that they're saying while you're in stage 3, they want you to take a look at patterns of this, patterns of this, patterns of this that you've had. These are themes that you're still engaging with. And they'll even say, one thing that will help you through this would be maybe breath work, or they'll bring in actual things we do in the physical world, aside from identifying the limiting beliefs and how to work through those and replace them and all that. That's always coming through. But if there's additional resources that that person's higher self or guides know would benefit them in that moment, to help transmute whatever is going on, they will bring that through as well. So, but if we're looking, outside of a one-to-one session, that's what the alchemy course provides. A lot of that information and practices that you can do. So, in this third stage, it's more, we're working with the conscious mind here in the third stage. So, a lot of these patterns are right on the surface for you to see. They're there. It's not too hard to identify the patterns that you have that are getting in your way. And you're working through them by identifying them in the moment. And really the way to do that is first, the emotion's going to hit you first. If you have anxiety, you become aware of it. If you have fear, you become aware of it. Those things are going to hit you first. And then in that moment, you want to identify what thought led to that emotion. What was I thinking? Did I get a bill in the mail that I know I'm going to struggle to pay? And so that hit me with anxiety. Okay, so now I need to realize I've got a limiting pattern going around my finances here. Or, if you're someone who knows you have a pattern where you're not comfortable being alone with yourself and you're always keeping yourself busy, you're always out and active, you're not allowing for any time to quiet the mind and meditate or do something for yourself, you have to become aware of that. But in the moment, you're going to try to find a way of thinking that feels less limiting, more empowered. So there's a lot of self-talk within this third stage. There's a lot of reframing of your beliefs during this stage. And so if we look at the soul blueprint as sort of this big, huge building that we incarnate into, it's a framework for us, and it can be a magical place, or it could be a really confining place, depending on what we do and our belief system and all that. But I feel like, if you, I like to use this analogy because it's such a good one, I feel, for the blueprint and then for also how we use alchemy within our blueprint. Because when you incarnate into this building, now the framework, what's in your blueprint is your astrology, your numerology, your soul intentions for this lifetime, the gifts and abilities that you have, the history of your soul, all of these things, karmic patterns, other lifetimes. This is all encoded within your soul blueprint. So it's all accessible there. Any patterns that you have that are activated from any lifetime or from this lifetime, that's in there. Those destiny points are in there. All of that is available. And what forms our structure for this lifetime. And up until the point of awakening, many of us are only operating in a couple rooms within our building. We're not even
Right.
aware of all the other rooms that are available. We're not even aware that there's other floors that we can access, right? We're very limited. When we hit that first stage, it's like we're handed a key to unlock that door and move out of that room. And now we can start to explore, right? And then in the third stage is when we start to unlock more doors. We start to see there are other possibilities and things start to expand for us, right? So each of these stages really holds a key to a new level or a new experience or a new
You
dimension.
have me on pins and needles. I want to know what's in 4, 5, 6, and 7.
All right, I'm getting there. Okay. So yeah, keep me moving if you need to, Sean. So, okay, fourth stage. So once you have shifted enough of your belief system that you have unlocked yourself to the next stage, you'll move into the fourth stage, which is the reconnection stage. And this is a really exciting, pivotal stage for people. I work with a lot of people that are in this stage. And this is the work of the heart chakra.
Mm,
Okay, and so now we're engaging more with the subconscious mind in the fourth stage. A lot of times, this is when people will seek out things like past life regression. They'll start to maybe have dream memories about other lifetimes, or they'll have their subconscious really talking to them in their dreams, bringing up what is below the surface for them that comes up in this stage. And we have to do some deep forgiveness work in this stage of alchemy. So now we are preparing to reconnect fully with our higher self. During the fourth stage, we are starting to access that fifth dimensional state more and more. We're starting to really elevate our consciousness here. And the last remaining things that will sort of be a little bit of a barrier between us and that full reconnection with the higher self have to do with what's going on at the heart.
mm,
So we have to forgive ourselves for anything that we're blaming ourselves for. People often will have regrets that they're holding on to come up in this stage for them. Um, any relationship experiences that have caused any kind of trauma or caused you to put up some heart walls and not allow yourself to be vulnerable in relationships, or that will come up. A lot of times people will get to a new level of forgiving if they have incarnated into a family where the parent was abusive or anything like that. You get to another level of forgiveness here. So the forgiveness in the third stage is really a conscious mind forgiveness that people will have those aha moments. Yes, my parent abused me when I was a child, and that led me to have these coping mechanisms, and that's led me to these experiences. And so now I want to forgive them because I can see they were repeating a pattern, right? So I can see that on a conscious level. So I can forgive them. I can let them off the hook. Um, but when you get to the fourth stage, you have to go deeper and you have to look at them on a soul level and you say, wait a second, we had a spiritual agreement. Your soul and my soul agreed to play these roles for each other. And you played that role for me. And my soul chose that to evolve in a certain way. And in my physical human self, I may not see that full picture, but I can know that that's what, because we have spiritual agreements with our family. We choose them. We choose those circumstances that we're born into in our pre-life planning. That's what we do. So we can get to a point in this fourth stage where we can think of that person, any person in your life that you feel has harmed you in some way, and you can see it from the perspective of soul and say, "Thank you for playing that role for me." That was a gesture of love that that person incarnated with you and played that role for you. So that's the deep level of forgiveness that happens. So in this stage, once we do that level of forgiveness, we start to, first of all, our psychic ability, our intuitive abilities will really start to heighten. We'll start to notice a lot more synchronicities happening. If you allow yourself time to quiet your mind, to meditate, to do practices like that, this will accelerate even faster for you. And you'll start to reconnect back in. Now, this is when you are going to really come face to face with your higher self. That heart chakra is a portal way, it's an energetic portal way into higher dimensional states. And you really have to get to this place in your spiritual development to be able to access that because you have to have gotten to this sort of spiritual maturity in a sense where you can then handle the experience of really high vibrational energy and what you're going to experience with that. You know, if you don't have any foundation and you were to all of a sudden open your heart chakra gateway and be connecting into multi dimensions, that would be feel like a break with reality for you. But if you've gone through these stages and you've gotten yourself acclimated, right, energetically, then you can access this heart chakra gateway and you can start to work in higher dimensional states. So for me, when this happened for me, this is when I started to hear the word Sirius. This is when I started connecting with my guide from Sirius. And he started showing me things like sacred geometry, the Merkaba, things like that. And then he showed me how to use the Merkaba to access this portal way and then he started showing me what was available in Sirius. So he showed me around. I saw what was available there. And this is what we all can do. So everyone can do this when they open that heart chakra gateway. So I think a lot of people will start to meet new guides for themselves or connect with the higher self. There is an actual merging process that happens with the higher self. Um, and then you are kind of more of that consciousness of the higher self. And we have higher selves in all the different dimensions. There's not just one higher self. We have a fifth dimensional soul aspect, a sixth dimensional soul aspect, and up and up and up. And so as you move through these stages of alchemy, you reconnect at these different layers of vibration with these different aspects of your own soul. And
Mhm.
along with that, your abilities that you have within that soul blueprint start to come online for you if you haven't been using them. Some have been dormant, maybe. They start to get activated during this time. And that's why your psychic ability really starts to kick in more.
So what happens in the next stage?
Okay, so the fifth stage is the stage of rebirth. So the fourth chakra and the fourth stage is really a bridge between the earthly plane and the spiritual plane. So once you move through that bridge of the fourth stage, you come out on the other side a new person. You have disengaged from the old ego identity, and now you are your authentic identity. You're sort of reborn in a sense. And this can also kind of feel like a dark night of the soul for some people when they get to this stage, because you feel a sense of loss of identity sometimes. And you it's funny because I'll see, and I know this was true for me too, in the third stage and fourth stage, I had learned so much that I felt like I have a really good handle on all this spiritual stuff. I
Yeah.
mean, I think I know how it all works, you know? And then you get to the fifth stage and you realize, oh, wow, I didn't even know what I didn't know. There's so much more available here that I didn't even realize could be. When you get to that stage, you really don't seek out a lot of external teachers, resources. You might from time to time, but really you start learning directly from your higher self, from those maybe ascended masters or guides that are working with you, your star family as a star seed. You start to really connect and learn directly from them. And so that's when things really get interesting because they'll show you what your unique thing is. This is when I see people typically will um, lock in to their purpose and their path.
Question for you.
Mhm.
How many people in your community that you work with seem to reach this stage? Because for a lot of people listening right now, they can say, I'm just happy to get to like level 3 or 4 and how amazing. When we start getting into this stage, do you find like it's a small percentage that are really accessing that? Or are you finding that's becoming easier for that transition to happen because of the times that we're in and what's being facilitated through these different conversations, the energetic inputs, and the expansion of consciousness that's happening?
Yeah, I would say the majority of people that I see are in the third or fourth stage. But
Mhm.
I do work with people that are in the fifth stage, and these are people that are already working as healers. They might already be working as mediums, psychics, um, or working in some different modality or coaches or teachers or something like that. And they are already doing that. They have a good understanding of all this, but they're still wanting also to get to the next level in
And
their awareness.
And that what I really love about the way that you've mapped this out, and I'm so appreciative of the course, and we're going to go through the course in a little bit after we go through the stages here quickly, is that sometimes we don't know that there's somewhere further to go. We're not aware that it gets better, that there's an opportunity beyond stage 3, because that's kind of where we've been locked in according to our generational patterns, what our parents have taught us, what the educational system has offered, and where our community has guided us to. But when someone opens the door that there's something else and something mapped out beyond that, it really opens up gateways of new possibilities that don't have to feel as sticky as the first ones that we kind of had to maybe navigate on our own because we didn't really have the support or the different information that was bringing awareness to help us just springboard through what was really possible.
Yeah, and I think a big part of that, an element that helps us really focus in for ourselves is when you can learn about your blueprint and what's in it, because we're not all on the same path here. And what you're guided to do as part of your purpose, John, is different than mine and different than other purpose. And I think sometimes in the spiritual community, we are comparing ourselves to other people. And I work with a lot of people who really want to start their spiritual business, but they say, well, what do I have to offer that's different? Well, let's look at your soul blueprint. You're
Right.
here with these, this is where your soul wants to take you. And we can really focus in on that. And it helps people. I feel like once they get a lot of that information from their soul blueprint, it focuses them, it gets
Mm.
them targeted. And then they can really put their energy in what's right for them and what is aligned with their soul and their soul's intention for this lifetime. So that's a really important thing.
Can we tap into 6 and 7 and get to a special offer? Because I want to get to, because I want as many people to have this map and this ascension course as
Uh-huh.
possible. So let's tap into 6 and 7. I know some
Okay.
questions coming in the chat
Six.
also. And
Yep.
yeah, let's navigate it.
Six is integration. So now you've learned what you've learned, you've opened a heart chakra, you are in your new self, you're walking the walk, and now you're embodying. You're
Mm,
really embodying, and you are bringing in more light into your physical body. And so, a lot of times in the sixth stage, we are transmuting a lot of what's held still in the physical body that's not up to speed with these higher and higher and higher vibrations that we're now accessing. So, we're embodying it. We're really walking this. We are fine tuning our vibration. Anything at this point that is misaligned for you is going to stick out like a sore thumb. You're not going to have to excavate anything. It's going to be very obvious to you, and you're going to be very aware of it. And then the second stage is really, oh,
Well, what I want to mention though on here is because it can sound like it's, oh my God, this is the difficult stage, but it really isn't because what we've accumulated across the different stages and what's opening up is giving us an action taking ability that we didn't have. So we're not really approaching, we'll call it these problems from the solution of the beginner, but more in vibrational accord. And it seems like those things tend to dialysize that much more quickly because we have the mechanisms in place to really help them propel in a way that we didn't before. So I just really want to point that out because I don't want anybody to be afraid of this stage. Actually,
no.
it's something to really embrace.
Yeah, and I really want to say this is fun. I find this fun. It doesn't
Right.
have to be serious. It doesn't I mean, no pun intended, serious. it it can be fun. I find it, I'm eager to see what's coming next. I'm
Yeah.
always thinking in those terms, and we tend to overthink things and make it harder than it needs to be, and see we're here, we need to get here. No, like watch it unfold and experience
Right.
the unfolding of it, and it's so fun. And the seventh stage is really the mastery stage. Okay, that is the end stage of alchemy where we have alchemized, the base metal to gold. We have transformed ourselves fully. So we're living in our mastery. We are um, accessing our soul abilities on such a level that we can do things like telepathy and in miraculous healing and all those things. And we're really living in that state of soul embodiment, full soul.
Mm, mm. Beautiful. The stage of mastery also, you know, when you've gotten to that stage, when yes, the facilitation and the familiarity with this realms is just so prominent, but you also become so humble in the awareness that you know that you don't know anything. But the thing is, it's okay that you don't know anything. It's like a surrender into like a greater perspective of what you've accumulated along the way, that the limitations, the density, the fears, the anxieties, they don't play a role in the not knowing.
Right. And
That,
along this path that we're on, things don't get harder, they get easier.
right.
What you were doing before you started on the alchemy path, that was hard.
Yeah.
Once you get going on it, it gets easier and easier and easier. You're more aligned. And the more you're aligned with your soul, the more you're in the flow, the more you're moving forward towards what you want, the more that you feel balance and peace. And I'm telling you, it's life changing. And, like I said, most of the people I work with are in the third or fourth stage, and there's no rush with it.
None.
You're enjoying it. You could be enjoying it. If you're not, it's because there's some limiting belief pattern or resistance that's needing to be shifted.
Yeah, I find every stage is filled with awe and wonder, truly. It's just like it's like a kid going to Disneyland on the ride and discovering something new, on the same ride, but discovering something new every time, just like, wow,
Yeah.
I didn't know, wow. And then becoming more empowered along the way and more aware and then able to interact and then choosing the adventure as they go rather than just being passive with it, which is when you start
Yeah.
choosing your adventure.
I love that analogy.
Right. It's amazing. I want to get into a special offer again. I wanted to, and I apologize for rushing you through the last
That's okay.
components. Um, but y'all, the special offer that Jami is bringing us through and this alchemization through the stages, it's such an amazing blueprint facilitation, an experiential where you get to own your journey and really just embody through the experience. And once you have this, your awareness of the gateways of the unfoldment and remembrance and awakening in the levels of your consciousness, it's one of the most profound, intimate journeys. Let me take that back. It is the most profound, intimate journey that you'll take in this human life. So it's a gift that Jami is onto and presenting this special offer. And I hope that you follow along as Jami presents exactly where you're going to be receiving the formats, the different tools that you'll have access to. And to follow along, click on the blue link that's in the chat box if you're live, or click on the special offer button on the live page if you're watching there. If you're watching the replay, go to beyondtheordinaryshow.com/marketplace. You'll find Jami's picture, the special offer button there. And if you're watching on the replay on the YouTube channel, the link's in the comment section, or go to the marketplace as well, and you'll be able to find the link and go through the offer there. And we're going to get into some Q&A, y'all, in just a little bit, I promise. But Jami, take us through what this course is and how people are going to benefit from it.
Yeah. So I've been teaching this course for a long time, and then I just updated it. I just did all new videos for this over the last
Awesome.
couple months. So there's 8 videos, I believe, and we talk about the blueprint more and how that all works. We talk about the 7 hermetic principles because when we're talking about alchemy, we can't leave that out. That's really the basis for what we know as spirituality, is the 7 hermetic principles. So there's a video about that. And we talk about, your personal path to alignment, transformation, and healing within the blueprint. And then we get into videos going through each of the stages and in much more detail than we did today. And some of them are a little lengthy, the videos, but there was a lot to cover. So we'll talk about, more what you can do during that stage, what you can expect during that stage. And I share a lot of my personal stories and experiences because I know I love hearing other people's stories, especially really cool, interesting stories of universal coordination and things like that. And so I share a lot of that. Um, and I try to bring it all to a very practical level so you know what to do. You know what's right for you, and you know the processes that you need to do in order to work with what you need to heal and shift. And so the videos will go through that. And then I also have the limiting belief worksheets. So I created them for each chakra. So we're working with the different life areas around each chakra, and you can do an inventory, look through and see which ones you're really holding on to, what you're holding in your belief structure, because that structure is what's keeping you stuck in that one room in your building, that you're not enjoying, and you want to get out of there. So you have to see what if I need to loosen my belief structure in order to experience something new. So I really like those because they really do help you kind of focus in on what's there on a conscious level for you. And then also I have 7 attunement meditations. And when I created these, I actually was channeling. I was told to channel these, and there would be actually healing frequencies, attuning frequencies that would be coming through. And so you'll be guided through a process in each one, working with each of the chakras. And what we're doing is we're working with releasing or transmuting any limitations there, anything that's within the DNA that needs to be deactivated or activated around a certain life area having to do with that chakra. We're transmuting any traumas or distortions that have happened from this lifetime or any other lifetime. And each of the recordings is different depending on the chakra that we're working on. So with the heart chakra, it really goes into depth about how to remove the walls around the heart to open that heart chakra gateway up and things like that. So each of those chakras are attuned. And I created those years ago, those in an alchemy course, and I still have people that say they listen to them years later because they find them so valuable, and they notice that they'll have shifts in their life after they listen to them. So you can download those as well. And also with this alchemy course, I created it in a way that you're going to use it for yourself, but also if you are someone who is moving into serving others as a teacher, as a coach, as a healer, you can use this information to assist other people. So we have this ripple effect, right? You know how to heal yourself, and then you can help other people um, know about this too. And I'm fine if you want to share the limiting belief worksheets with your clients and help them hone in on what it is that might be limiting them. So I think that's, oh, and then there's a bonus. I put a bonus video on there that is alchemy for love and relationships.
Mm,
And so it's pretty much what it says. It walks you through how to well, I talk a lot about soulmates in there and the different types of soulmates versus spiritual agreements, how we match up with specific soulmates at a specific time in our lives, because we don't just have one typically, we have many. Um, and also, I talk about what to do if you're in a relationship that you feel you want to shift some things within your relationship, within your dynamic, or you want to heal some things, or you're in that place of, I'm not sure if I should stay or go in this relationship. I talk a lot about how to work through that. And there's some processes and techniques that you can do to shift that energy within any relationship, whether it's with a child, with a partner, a parent, whomever.
This is wonderful. Yo, this is $97 with a two payment option. And I want to get into a little bit of description of the 8 video lessons. If you're not reading the page, I'm going to give you some of the bullet points. And if you are, follow along with me because these are really, I think they may resonate for you. They do for me in different ways, in different stages of where I am currently navigating. And I find that I navigate different stages where I may feel like I may be at a stage 6. There's still components of 3 and 4 that are weaving in different ways. And so to understand how kind of like the waves are rocking the ocean and navigating the different components that can come up is really beneficial because we are multidimensional and we're going through multiple experiences. And we're also have a capacity as we awaken even more of that empowered empathic ability that we're tuning into a collective that is kind of putting ripples in our waves also that's is affecting the currents of our personal ocean. So to understand the multidimensionality and the complexity of this, but in a very simple way so that you bring it all back to you instead of thinking that you need to heal the collective so that you can feel better. So it always
Yeah, I just want to add something, if
yes.
you don't mind, real quick, because you made me think of it. You could be in the solidly within that fourth stage where you're working with the heart chakra and all that, and you could have a situation occur in your life that takes you down
Mhm.
temporarily, right? And around that particular situation, it doesn't mean that you're not in the fourth stage anymore. That's where you are. But with that situation, you now have to alchemize that. And what happens when you get into the fourth stage and the fifth stages, you see the meaning in things quicker. You see from a higher perspective quicker. You see from the viewpoint of your higher self. And so things that might have set you back so far at some point in your journey, now there'll be that tug, into those old feelings, but you'll very quickly have the understanding around it and be able to pull yourself back and not get stuck anywhere.
Yeah. And it's all divine timing. It's like that level 1 or 2 thing didn't come up because it was going to be facilitated with that much more grace and expediency once you're ready here so that you can go in and just like sweep it out really quickly instead of thinking that you had to demolish a whole building uh,
Right.
to get to that point. So again, it's trusting the grace that's really guiding this as we show up for ourselves. There's so much benevolent facilitation that really takes place when we start embracing these things about ourselves and truths that are ready to be remembered and activated as we go through this ascensionary journey. So some of the bullet points, y'all, we're going to get into Q&A. And again, the offer is $97, 2 payment option. The link's in the chat box. The link is on the special offer page in the marketplace. You know where to find it. But this, y'all, how to identify what programs and belief structures within your blueprints are getting in the way of you living your true potential in every area of life. Yes, please. What you'll experience in each stage of ascension and how to best navigate each stage, the process of true reconnection to the fifth dimensional higher self and soul level skill sets, how to embrace your path as a light worker, starseed healer, energy worker, transformational teacher, or intuitive and aligned to solid purpose and business. And then the step-by-step process from of moving from lack to fulfillment, this connection to connection, this empowerment to true soul empowerment. And I know that we're all seeking that in different stages of our lives, no matter how far along the path or how long we've been doing this, that's an ongoing rediscovery. It just is. We don't just get to the top of a mountain. It's like, here I am. And it's done. We go through alchemical attunements into higher vibrational states and taking into points of awe that sometimes require us being lost along the way, supposedly, so that we can find deeper levels of alchemy and higher levels of attunement that are possible. So all this, it's not just get there and you're done. It's such a beautiful roadmap for different stages that evolve in different ways at different levels, that can really help you bring you back to you. Tremendously reduce some of the chemical reaction that has us in a state of checking out of our body, of,
Mm.
of misattuning with our emotions, and put us on the edge of anxiety and losing ourselves, or losing our connection with others because we can't find ourselves in the imbalance. So this is an amazing course that's being offered to. And again, Jami reduced it tremendously for us on BTO. And my hope is that you take advantage of the opportunities that we can bring onto this platform because of listeners like you, because we build community and that we're guiding each other into these new levels of remembering and owning and claiming who we are and who we get to be. So it's wonderful. Again, the link's in the chat box. Please take advantage of it. And Jami, well, first I want to thank you for bringing this special offer onto the show, which is incredible. And I want to get into some Q&A if you don't mind.
Sure.
All right. So there is, we had some questions at the very beginning. And if you guys want to ask Jami your personal question, feel free to raise your hand and we'll try to get some live calls as well. Let me find this question. So Bridget wrote in earlier, what would you say to someone that doesn't have that profound moment that changes everything? It's like a slow stagger and it's frustrating because nothing is inspiring, perhaps that there's got to be something more.
Okay, that was Bridget.
Yes.
I feel you, Bridget.
Mm.
I talk to people all the time who are right where you are, and feeling that sense of, a lot of people get into this place of, when am I going to have this type of, awakening that is going to all of a sudden, bring me to this place of, psychic knowing or understanding or whatever, where I'm going to have this, kind of experience like what happened to me, in 1998. But that's really not the norm for everyone. So this, like, I liked the way you use staggering, this kind of staggering along in your journey is really what a lot of people experience. However, the more that you continue to go and look within and cultivate more of your own empowerment within you, you will start to see the shift happen. And I think one thing that's going to be important too is, don't compare yourself to anyone else's journey. You're right where you need to be. And each experience that you're having right now, even if it's you're not where you want to be right now, but each experience is leading you further and further down that path. And so trust that you're at the right place at the right time. Trust that every time you do things like meditate, if you can quiet your mind, what you're doing is you're up leveling your vibration each time you are opening space for communication with your own higher self. And you might eventually have one of those experiences that you feel really cracked something open for you. But you have to dedicate some time to really allowing that space to be able to make that connection. And sometimes that's all it takes for people when they feel like the kind of how you're saying, it's been a slow progression. They haven't had any big epiphanies or something happen. Quieting the mind, if you can do that consistently or have some kind of practice or routine that allows you to tune in, that really can open things up for you. Or the attunement meditations that I was just talking about, they're very beneficial for getting that sense of connection back in because you have to feel it. Nobody can, words are words, and I can share my experiences with you and what I know and what I connect in psychically, but you have to experience for yourself. And if you do practices like breath work or meditation or things like that, you can actually have that sense of connection. And that's going to lead you then to the next thing for you and the next thing for you. And then it's going to keep rolling from there.
Mhm. Well, and I would suggest also that your epiphany is that something just ain't quite right. There's a gift in that rub. We think that feeling the discomfort of something not being right is wrong, but that's what's informing us. That's what informing me is like there's got to be something better than what's that's everything's wonderful, but something's missing and I don't know what it is. Or
Mm-hmm.
God, I see that brass ring right in front of me. No matter what I do, I just can't grab it. If I can only get there, and even the challenge, the suffering of that comes up, it's don't think I want to invite you to not feel isolated in the discomfort. Because a lot of times we all feel like we're the only ones that are feeling uncomfortable in it. And if we can have compassion for what's coming through and look for the gift of what it is. What's this awakening? It's not that you're not getting a sign. You may not like the sign because it feels uncomfortable, but how often do you walk around and see people completely numb and in ignorance? And while that may seem intriguing to at least not feel, I guarantee you that when you get to the end of your life, you'll be so glad that you felt and that you're open and started getting into a place where you explored beyond the numbness of a world, because how empty is that in reality? So again, for me, understanding that all of the different stages, even the very like, I don't know, I'm lost, I don't know where to go. Good thing you're lost, because again, at least you're awakened that there's somewhere for you to go to, that's beyond what's being
Mm-hmm.
presented. So
I'd like to
it's
share too this mantra that you can say that this really is pivotal. I think it was pivotal for me. Um, and I received this from higher consciousness, was to say, I allow myself to be all that I am and all that I came here to be.
mm,
And you'll be surprised what will show up for you.
mm,
Anything that's getting in your way will show up for you, but also you'll start to see more of the potential that's available to you.
beautiful mantra. Thank you,
Mm-hmm.
Jamie. And that'll be on the replay, y'all. Will you repeat it one more time so everybody can catch
Yeah.
it again?
I allow myself to be all that I am and all that I came here to be.
You know, if
And then be open to what comes. Pay attention.
yeah. And I would even say, after you say the mantra, take a deep breath in stillness and let it penetrate you. It's it's what the gurus and the mystics say. Once you say your prayer, expect it to be realized. And so take it
Yeah.
in and know it to
And
be
for
true.
me, it was so interesting. Just a real quick story is when I started saying that mantra, I knew I was getting ready to go into another state of expansion. And so I was saying that. And that's when I found out some things that were going on in my DNA. I found out actually that one of my ancestors, my 9 times great grandmother, was convicted of witchcraft in Virginia in
Oh, wow.
1700, and she was imprisoned for 8 years. I actually went to a reenactment of her witch trial in Colonial Williamsburg. But
That's crazy.
that information came to me. My cousin, who does all our genealogy, came and told me about this right after I had started saying that mantra. And I'm like, oh, I guess something that is getting in my way of putting myself out there more is coming up for me to heal. So, I mean,
Wow.
that's the power of this statement. What are you going to become aware of, you know?
Be open and get ready to receive. All right, let's continue. Lara, welcome to the show tonight. Laura, welcome
You,
to the show tonight.
you got it, John. Thank you. Thank you for remembering. And I just real quickly want to say that I did numb myself out for a long time. I did. I used alcohol and drugs a lot for many years,
Same.
and I've been sober 17 years now. And in the end of my drinking, my bottom was not like living on the streets or something. It was an emotional bottom of like, I can't keep going on like this. I know I have a more of a purpose. Like, this isn't life, you know, because I was always so numbed out. So the numbing out road is not a good one to take. Just FYI. um, thank you so much for being here, Jami, and thank you for your offer. I guess my question is, I when I'm reading through the steps, the stages of alchemy, like, I feel like I'm in three, between 3 and 4, but then I'm also, you know, you said one is being stuck in our pain body, and I live with chronic pain right now in my back and my legs, and so I guess I how do I get out of feeling stuck in chronic pain when I'm or getting out of my pain body when I am still stuck in my pain body? How can I transcend that?
Well, thanks for your question. When I'm talking about the pain body, I'm talking about your emotional wounds, traumas, things like that, not so much the physical sense. But if this is one of the biggest things in your life that's not where you want it to be, so you want to enjoy complete physical well-being, right? And being in a body that feels good. So this is probably something that you have tried a lot of different things in maybe spiritual things, modalities, and then also in the physical world, you know, different things too. So I feel sometimes the things going on in the physical body are challenging for us to transmute because they get our attention so much because we feel it all the time, especially chronic pain. And so, but as you are in these stages of alchemy, this is something that really you can really alleviate. And it just takes a matter of continuing to identify what's coming up from the pain for you. So when you're feeling an intense pain in your body, open a dialogue with it. You know, what is this about? What is this teaching me? Do I have a stored trauma here? Do I have a trapped emotion here? Is this related to this lifetime, another lifetime? And these are things I could certainly help you with too. But really connecting in and tuning into what it has to show you, and trust yourself. So as you're doing this, it doesn't matter if you're open psychically or not. We can all tune into our bodies. So wherever you are on the spectrum of intuitive ability, you can do this. Just get quiet, focus on your breathing, focus on that area, ask the question, and then what comes into your mind first? You might get a memory flash. You might get a knowing about something. You might think of a certain person that this is connected to. Also, I'm getting for you too that working with a subconscious mind is going to benefit you. And so, are you able to remember your dreams?
Yes, vividly.
Okay. You're going to be getting a lot of messages in the dream state.
Okay.
Okay. And so, if you set your intentions at night, work with your dreams, work with your subconscious. So, set the intention when you're going to bed at night. I would like to receive guidance and awareness around this, whatever it is that you're wanting. And keep that pen and paper that you have there next to your bed. And when you wake up, write down what it is. Look up the symbolism. You know, if you ask that question and you have a dream, let's say, where you have water in the dream, you're in the ocean or you're in the water, you know, that's saying it's emotional. That's going to tell you this is something emotional within me. What is the water like? Is it turbulent? Is it calm? Is it clear? Is it muddy, look into those things. Look up any animal symbolism. Look up the meaning of that and try to really tune into the feeling and also the time period and placement of the dream. So if you ask for awareness around a pain that you're having in a certain area of your body and you have a dream where you're back in high school, that could help you identify that there's some experience from high school that needs healing.
Yeah. I didn't even think about that. That's good. I have like this reoccurring dream about my ex-husband, and I know that it's something I need to heal. And I'm doing EMDR and therapy. Like I have had some release in the pain in doing the EMDR and some breakthroughs, but it's not fast enough for me. I want it all now, but I never thought about the dream and how that could equate. So thank you. I'm definitely
Also, I want to tell you, work with your hand chakras, okay? Because you actually are a healer, and
yes.
I'm getting that about you. So work with those hand chakras. I don't know if you've ever taken any energy modality classes, but get back to that because you focus on the hands, the palms of the hands. Imagine the chakras lighting up in your hands. Connect in through your heart to your higher self and allow that energy to flow through you. Don't try to use your own energy. Allow it to flow through you like a conduit. Hold those areas that are hurting you. And get your mind to a place of, because when you have chronic problems, health problems, we get defeated. We get discouraged. We think, I've tried everything, nothing's working. That's a mindset you're going to have to get yourself out of.
Yeah.
Get yourself to knowing and trusting that this A is possible to heal, and B, it doesn't have to take a long time.
Thank you. Yeah, it's possible for me is another one. The I'm not worthy is a big belief that I struggle with. So, and you're the second person tonight to tell me to start doing my Reiki more because we're level 2 Reiki, so I need to start doing that.
You got the message from the intuitive psychic that we bring on BTO. Imagine the accuracy.
So much, Jamie. Thank you. Thanks, John.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Lara. Y'all, the link for the special offer, again, the alchemy and what's presented there. And again, if you're aware of your limiting beliefs, what are you working with to help overcome them, to help rewire the neurochemistry and what's available through the ascensionary energy? Well, it's possible that it comes in a dream and poof, it goes away. And sometimes it does result in that because of work that you've done leading up to it. But really, there's an application that needs to take place in all of us. There's a work and a devotion. And it's not really work, it's a relational path of understanding and knowing ourselves that will be one of the most fulfilling things that you will do in your lifetime, akin to giving birth to a child or being a parent or falling in love with someone and alchemizing the energy of that. The intimacy of diving into you and getting to know yourself and healing yourself because you're willing to hold yourself in that way. There's no greater gift that you can give to yourself, to the people that you love. And really, if you want to serve the collective, that's where it all starts, truly. So again, what Jamie's offering here, the limiting belief worksheets just by themselves. If you can overcome that limiting belief, is it worth $97? It's worth 100 times that, as we know. But again, it's why we present all this amazing work here on BTO, why we invited Jamie, because there's facilitation. It doesn't have to be hard. And actually, it's pretty darn exciting when you really dive into it. So again, I hope you all take advantage of the special offer. Again, we'll run the replay. Jamie, before we go tonight, I'm curious what you're tuning into, or maybe what your guides are maybe giving you a glimpse into, as to what is happening with our collective ascensionary phase, or what we're experiencing right now.
Yeah. So when I work with my guide Elijah who is a timeline master. So that's in his blueprint, right? To be able to go back and forth in what we would consider linear time. And so when I do have premonitions or pre-knowing, I'm connecting in and bringing that through. And what I was getting from tuning into that consciousness was that collectively we're in that third stage, collectively. And so that's why you're seeing so many people say, this is reality. No, that's reality. And there's this little bit of a tug of war going on between the old limiting beliefs and what the people who are here to bring about change, okay, the light workers and star seeds are bringing in a new way, right? And so there's this sort of who are we authentically? That's really what the collective is doing. And but I will say that there is a tipping point's coming very soon because a critical mass is going to be achieved where the fourth stage is now accessed. We are now operating more from the heart. And this is what this year is about. This year, 2025, is about leaving that third stage collectively and moving into the heart, letting go of the ego, letting go of the old programs, the old systems, and really embracing the heart knowing, okay, and operating from a place of more love. And it's an opportunity for all of us to, in our daily life, say, what's the most loving thought I could have right now? What's the most loving action I could take right now? And when you look at all the events going on around you that seem like chaos and turmoil and all of that, how much can you get yourself to a place of neutrality and seeing it from a higher perspective? And we're all going to be okay.
Beautiful. And I love it was punctuated, y'all. Jami, at the end
End of sentence.
we're all going to be okay, period.
A lot of people have a lot of fear about the changes that are coming. And they want to know what's going to happen to humanity, what's going to happen with the environment and the earth and all the changes that are coming. And there are changes coming, but we are all going to be okay. And we're all going to have a different experience of the changes that come because we are all kind of living in our own reality within this collective. So how can you get yourself to a place of, through practices like doing things that balance you, being in nature, meditation, listening to uplifting music, tuning into John's podcast, things like that. What can you do to help bring balance to yourself so that you can be in the flow, so that you can ride the waves, and have a good experience?
Beautiful. Jami, it's been a great conversation. Thank you so much. Again, so much shared. The 7 stages illuminate so much. And again, the action taking abilities that get illuminated through that are really such great openers of gateways and possibilities into what we're ascending into. So amazing. Again, so many comments on there of just, wow, how amazing teacher you were, how relatable you were. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you for being on this show. It's wonderful having you here for the first time on BTO. I expect to have many more, I hope.
Thank you. I'm so excited.
Yeah. And again, thank you again for the special offer. And with that, everybody, thank you for being on the call with us. To all of y'all listening to the replay for the first time, welcome and thank you. Take advantage of the special offer. And I look forward to seeing you all on the next call. Blessings. I love you. Namaste.